Hello, good morning. It's Sunday, almost 8 o'clock. Time to rock, as they say. You know, I'm trying my top ones in today, giving my bottom ones a bit of a rest between the top and the bottom. I have tried them both in, but I still feel I got this mouthful of plastic. But we're getting there, slowly but surely. The next stage, of course, is to learn maybe to put some adhesive in it and see if I can eat with them. But they're doing quite well anyway, they fit well, and it's not the irritation that was there at the start. But that's not what I'm here to tell you, of course. No one wants to necessarily hear about false teeth. But they are cheap, nevertheless, in the Philippines. You know, this channel often talks, or a lot of it is about relationships. I think by now, if you've been watching me for over the years, you've seen the ups and downs of many relationships I've spoken about, and actually experienced in many cases myself. I don't say sadly, because as time goes on, time heals a little bit the disappointment, the regret. Some suggest the bitterness, but maybe they just don't understand me, or they just think that everybody who talks about their issues or issues similar is always bitter. Bitter is a bit like being jealous, isn't it? Not really for me. You know, none of us know who and when they're going to find the right one. And really, when is the right one? Where is the right one? Because most of us have come from some form of broken relationship in the West anyway. And when there's a heated argument between the two of you, you often get a throwback from each side, really, I suppose. I've never myself seen the need to say, well, what about you and so, her ex or her husband passed? Because it doesn't really achieve anything pointing fingers. And therefore, we all need to be conscious of the fact that we all can make mistakes. As I've said to you before, Filipinos see things in a different way than we do. For me, if I go away for the evening, come back in the wee hours of the morning, by the way, I haven't done that, but if I was to have, I think I would bring the wrath of my partner upon myself, even if it was just being drunk out of my head, which again, unlikely in my case, because I don't drink. But I would crawl back in the house and would try and hope that nobody noticed. Of course they'll notice you've been away, and if you cop it in the ear because of it, it's only your fault. You brought it on upon yourself. But of course, when it comes to relationships breaking up, the finger always is pointed generally in one direction here. It's our fault. It doesn't have to be the actual relationship itself, the relationship between man and woman. It's just about everything in general. When there's bills to be paid, overdue accounts, who gets asked to help? Who gets asked first to help? You'll probably find that if you say, well, hang on a minute, have you asked your family? Have you maybe sought help from your brother or your sister? And the answer is, oh, they've, yeah, done that. Nobody will help me. No. Of course, that's what I call bringing out the violins. And generally it works, because we as foreigners, as a rule, don't like to see others less fortunate than ourselves, or should I say, those unable to maybe dig themselves out of a hole. So what do? We find some way, no matter what, to help them. Even though maybe their families are saying, no, let her rot. And that surprises me sometimes when you hear that, because you also hear how families stick together. Of course, that's a generalization, but like all things in the Philippines, changes are taking place. You only have to look at a very common everyday thing, like the price of petrol. Have you noticed how, just like in the West, the prices go up and the prices go down? Now, of course, if you're not driving, you don't run a car, you probably don't notice these things, but they have I'll call it the price gouging, where certain days of the week they come down because they know nobody's got any money. They've spent their weekly salary. And then when the salaries are due to be paid, or on the day that they are, the price of gasoline seems to be at its highest. Funny that, isn't it? It's like holiday time. When you're going on holiday, the prices come down. When you're back on holiday, you'd think, wouldn't the prices go down again? It seems to be backwards, like it is in England or Australia. You notice a couple of cents a litre goes down at certain days. It might be a Thursday or a Friday. Or it could be a Monday and Tuesday. There's a different differential between different days. But I suppose really what it's telling us is that the Philippines is changing quite rapidly, in the sense that it's joining the 25th century. I say the 25th because, in other words, it's joining the future. And likewise, there's a change in the attitudes of the younger generation, the 20-25s, where they're starting to, they've been growing up through that from the 90s onwards. And their expectations of their future and their lives is different from those that were born in the 60s and 70s, even 80s. It's a changing all around the world, a feeling of indulgence, a feeling of entitlement even, because for them, life is just beginning. They're expecting to be able to afford the luxuries that they see portrayed on movies and documentaries about the world outside of the Philippines. Because for a Filipino, sadly, that's all they can do. They can't travel like you and I can. Save up, get on a plane, go for a few weeks and live in holiday somewhere. Get a taste of somewhere. It's like when Jane and the girls went over to join her brother, I should say, their uncle, in Australia. They had a ball, they had a great time. It opened all three of their eyes, all six of their eyes, I should say. And they had a great time. And I'm sure they appreciated the gift of a holiday on their uncle and their brother. But it also, what came with it is an understanding of the world in a different way. Because for many Filipinos who haven't travelled overseas, they've got no idea really, truly what life is outside of here. Sadly, in an attempt around the world to somehow quell human trafficking, as they call it, They see them, the governments here obviously see their responsibility on their community, which is great. But in doing so, they do tend to stifle the opportunity for the young generation of today to have that exciting experience of just travelling overseas without all the rigmarole of doing it. And other countries also have a cautious approach to having even tourists coming from the Philippines, because they're aware that some people do maybe decide to stay there longer and break their immigration rules. But my thought for the day is also the aspect of, I suppose, not dwelling on the past, but building on the past. You always know when you, well, no, you don't always know what's around the corner, but you have a pretty good idea, being a Western person, that you can control your life a lot easier than they can theirs. And you do that by the fact that you're financially independent. I'm always puzzled how somebody who has basically no money when they come here to the Philippines, except maybe their savings, and they maybe bring with them an expertise or a past of maybe working online, teaching, which is a very common occurrence. But with the economics of the world changing all the time, I would imagine that there's a certain amount of pressure on those that teach online, finding enough clients to keep their needs of money, their needs of making money, replenished all the time. There's numerous ads that get sent to me by way of email. I think it's Cambly is one of them, where you teach online. It seems quite an easy idea. I remember one of my fellow expats, an English guy, you might have remembered him, Simon from what is it called? Brit and Pinay it was called. He now calls himself by his name, Simon Mathers. Now he teaches online, just like our good friend Stephen too. And it is a good form of income, regular income if you want to put the effort in. And most of the time it's paid in American dollars, so it's fairly constant amount of money. And basically, from what I've read of the literature and sent emails, it does provide you with a steady means of adding to your finances. But again, going back to what I was talking about, finding the right woman also. Was I? I think I was. You always know when you've found a better one, simply because somebody who's generous towards you, and I don't mean necessarily financially, but certainly in their time and effort, won't be somebody who's got their hand out all the time. When somebody is only talking about themselves and kept shouting you down that I'm the reason that she's so miserable, when in fact I'm not the one necessarily talking to other people online and listening intently to their advice and direction. But when you have somebody, when you've been away, you remember how it was, maybe some of you have worked in trucks and gone away for a week and returned home, and when you get home your wife is standing on the lawn out the front with the kids maybe, waving, carrying on, oh you're home, great, big hug, go inside, put your feet up, cup of coffee, tea has been made, Maybe it's early when you arrive and it's breakfast on the table. That's a feeling of being wanted. That's a feeling of being cared for. I don't mean like a carer, but just knowing that that person cares about you. You have the other one where you come home and it's almost like they don't notice you there. What the fuck are you doing here sort of attitude. Like, why did you have to come back? That sort of thing. Well, that tells you the kind of woman you're with. When they have got to that level of any kind of relationship, it's time to seriously consider that wasting your energy on helping somebody, lifting them up, providing them with a future is a futile effort. And of course, many of us do that. We, in the course of events, often find it hard to let go. I did. And therefore, I know what I'm talking about, in the sense that I've given it my best shot. I've given people opportunities to, I won't say make amends, but to step back from the abyss. But for some, there's no humility, there's no humbleness. It's just all about themselves. And with a woman like that, you cannot expect to ever get through to them, because they're basically toxic and selfish. Why do I say that? I don't say it out of bitterness. I say it out of experience. Not necessarily here in the Philippines, but everywhere in the world. You will find women like that. But likewise, you'll also find women who ask for nothing, but they give so much. And one is only hopeful that we, as the recipient of such humbleness, such generosity, that we wake up and realize where our feet really should be. Because, again, that lovely expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You know, I'm reminded myself of situations where people who clearly influence others live their lives in loneliness and sadness, because they really can't think for themselves generally. They're always looking for somebody else to tell them the right way to do it. And when you've got somebody who maybe is so easily influenced by outsiders, it's easy to see where those problems are. I've been watching, I know it's AI generated, a lot of it, I'm sure. It's called the Royal Channel, I think it's called, and it's about Prince Charles before he came to become anointed as the King of England, and his lifelong friend Camilla, who was given the title of Queen Consort and is referred to by many as the Queen of England. Not really, I realise that. It's only in title. But how the ins and outs of their family is supposedly going through turmoil also. You know, the royal family is very visual, very out there in the open, and it's always been a very private affair. But the media or the channel is certainly doing its fair share of presenting an image that everyone's against Camilla now. Quite possible, because the future King of England, William, and his very gracious wife, Catherine, are clearly being groomed for that position in the near future, especially with our beloved. I'll say our beloved because that's how we should see our monarchy, or if we are monarchists, that is. He clearly has cancer. I don't think he wants to share exactly what kind, but as we all know, for many it's it's the writing on the wall, and I think that what they're talking about is quite true. How one woman and one woman's attitude towards a family can be often the downfall and the breakup of that whole family. Whether they do it self-centeredly wise, I don't know. It appears that some do, and of course some necessarily don't. But I think if you link the ideas to your own relationship, you have to look carefully at the day-to-day rumblings of your family and see how things can be and how they should be. I mean, I watch every day Brent's world. It's just a glimpse, a step inside of life here in the Philippines, up there in Bolat, anyway, somewhere up north of Lawag. And it's a glimpse of everyday life. That's reality of living anywhere. And Brent and Miles do a great job showing you just everyday things. Some people might say that's boring, but they've got to the stage where they're not necessarily wanting to go to every resort in town or every resort nearby or travel the 7,000 islands, because most of us have done all that ourselves before. Sure, christenings and weddings, gatherings are great now and again, but we all step back into everyday life. And just like everyday life, this is everyday life here. This is exciting and as boring or as interesting as we make it. So happiness comes from within, not from what's out there. We have to have the happiness in us to live a happy life. And I hope that you all have a happy day today and prepare for a happy Monday tomorrow at the countdown down to my birthday, which we're not going to celebrate, but I have to tell you I'm getting older every day. 77 on Sunday next week, so I might do a live on my birthday. Anyway, you guys have a lovely time. I hope I haven't waffled on too long, but you have a great day and God bless. Bye now.